Very good.
Thank you. Right. I think you have already listened to a number of very nice, fantastic presentation on Things Network. I'm going to talk about slightly different, but we are kind of on the same mission, I guess. Things Connected Network, and that's at Sheffield Hallam University we recently installed. So I'm going to share some of these experiences, how is it going and why that came into picture at all. Before that, it's just a bit about myself. I do research on signal and image processing and working quite heavily on IoT and machine vision, which is expected to be the next quite emerging thing because Intel has started investing a lot and a number of other companies, so that's something slightly different. I do work on low power accelerated vision stuff. Low power is quite related to the IoT devices we're making, and we're using that. And the other part is I work on multimedia signal processing for cybersecurity. Okay, right. I'll go to straightforward to Things Connected. This is one of the initiative from Digital Catapult. Digital Catapult, I think a couple of you or most of you actually know, is Innovate UK funded organization which tries to bridge between academics and businesses, tries to facilitate lots of infrastructure which can other people, small businesses and big businesses can use. And part of that was the Things Connected network, and this is quite similar to the network, the other network, but it has got a separate interface, I would say. This is quite free to use. The thingsconnected.net is their website, and this is where we are collaborating with them alongside other academic institutions like UCL and Imperial College. So that way it happened. I had a EPSRC funded project with Digital Catapult. We were spending time on some other stuff, and then we were talking about IoT UK because some of them were kind of handling IoT UK completely from Digital Catapult in London. And then we thought it would be probably nice to have it here in Sheffield to accommodate a lot many researchers in both the universities here and a number of local businesses. Perhaps that will be very helpful. And another intention was to teach students. So we get that facility, we get that leverage that we can have direct access to the computing students. I'm part of a department of computing. So we can actually teach them, we can prepare the next set of people who can go and innovate and do their businesses or participate and can offer more value addition to the existing businesses. So that was the kind of main motivation to bring it here. A bit more about Things Connected. So as like the other network, it is quite, it's free to use. So only thing is that you can actually test and develop your IoT solutions in the real world, but I guess you can't use that network for the business purposes. So it's kind of the playing field. So you create your prototype, you create your solution, demonstrate, and then possibly go out and explore other networks for your business cases. So this is become a part of growing community of IoT entrepreneurs and developers. So they are kind of, there's another communities growing. I wouldn't say there is a conflict between these two communities, it's just they're existing. So they have regular workshops as well. So part of that, after we have installed it in Sheffield, we had a workshop in last November. Some of you, I can see you were there, and we had some hands-on workshop on Things Connected. This is basically literally the marketing stuff for them. Nothing to do with me particularly, but I guess this is something give you a bit of sense why it is important. So, and again, this is funded by Innovate UK, so that has got some funding available through them. And they have lots of funding schemes for entrepreneurs, so you can ask money to do certain projects. So if you're successful getting that, then that is a nice thing to do. Right. So initially we were talking in the last summer about with them, and then we thought it is nice to bring a gateway here. So Digital Catapult was very kind to give us a gateway, and they are in a mission to provide number of gateways across UK and establish that. So what happened, because we are part of the university, and the university is such a big organization, putting anything.
That one's okay, I don't know why we've lost that one.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry lads. Yeah, don't go over here.
Right, okay, so because this is university, there are a number of steps to be followed because of the permissions and all those steps, and the network security, because it is connected to the internet, so it goes through in a separate channel with the university network. There are pros and cons. Pros is we have very reliable internet connections and the network. The cons is I had to kind of literally fight through almost everybody in the network, people there, and with the people who can actually approve installing these things. And I can say this was in last November when we actually managed to install this one on top of this building. This is ON building. Some of you probably know this is quite a tall building here in the city campus, and that can actually serve kind of a big coverage. And this is the actual gateway and the antenna we have installed there. So this is active this right now. So if you are interested, if you have any LoRaWAN enabled devices, you can just connect onto the thingsconnected.net network. And we typically use SODAC Explorer board for the moment. And I guess you have already seen the SODAC Explorer board from the previous presentation, so you can directly use them and connect it. And now, in terms of sensors, you can, of course, you can be very creative and you can use that from different perspective. But for us, what we are trying to do, we are trying to encourage students and local businesses as well to be innovative. So what did we do? We have introduced this to the student projects for the moment, and in the next year we have already convinced a university to get more gateways, more sensors or sort of boards, sort of things. So we are including that within our teaching modules. Okay, so that's the kind of, we think is the kind of best way to introduce it and to reach out a larger community who can be ready for the next level. In particular for us, we also do application development, innovative applications, but also we try to look for the security aspect of the LoRaWAN. So one of the students currently working with me is trying to find security loopholes, because although I know that's not being practiced at this point, it's not a big deal, but it's going to come in future and in the near future. So we're trying to see what are the security aspects are possibly the loopholes are there, and how can we solve that problem. And we're trying to find a solution using machine learning techniques to understand the data we are receiving. One of the problem I can tell you now is a number of these gateways is a receiver, and the sensors are one-way broadcasting it. So every gateway is receiving data. That's not a two-way communication. There is no security or session key is established. Although these gateways can do it, but they are not doing it at this point. So what we did, we have another small internal gateway. We're collecting data when the sensor is sending data. So at the same time, with two different gateways, we're collecting data. Now, if that is the case, how much we can make sense of that data, that is something we're trying to find. And also, the denial of service type of attacks. What happens if I try to send lots of data packets suddenly? It can actually virtually stop the actual network. So how do you safeguard all those things? Those are the kind of point of interest at this point for me. And of course, also there are other academics who are trying to see different applications. And one of the applications are from, sorry, go on.
Are you just doing this with Things Connected, or are you doing any of that cyber analysis on Things Network?
Currently we're working on the Things Connected, but effectively this is the LoRaWAN security analysis. It's
So
just
it translates, or?
And we're not connecting to any other network, it's just working on the things connected at this point. But I guess the same analysis will be equally applicable for any LoRaWAN. So one of my colleagues, Mark, is working with museums because there was another European project which is recently completed. What they did is they put lots of IoT-enabled devices in the museums and then we're collecting data. But the similar concept we're trying to explore in this at this point as well within and outside Sheffield. And although we have not tested the range yet, so that's the next thing we are going to do, how much coverage it can give it to us. So those are the things we are trying to do at this point. So at this point, the coexistence of both IoT infrastructure, so yeah. So I think Chris has a point in the last workshop that whether they're conflicting to each other or not, and probably it's not. It's just having two different infrastructure, and we can actually do a lot of work together and without hampering each other's problem, and we can bring the community in. In terms of working with the university, we're quite happy to be involved with a number of businesses. As much as we can help from our knowledge, we can pass on the knowledge. And there are different avenues there. So there's a program called Sheffield Innovation Program, where this is a European Regional Development Fund, where you can apply for, and we can give our academic times up to 20 days to give you suggestions or do some work with you directly. There are also knowledge transfer partnership funding available from the government, where it's a kind of sharing basis. It's I think 70-30 shared, 70% will be covered by the Innovate UK and the 30% will be covered by the businesses. And on top of that, we always look for student projects. They can work with you as an apprentice, or directly you can work with them, take their ideas, or use them to develop some of your ideas. So those are different routes one can explore with us, and that is it really.
Thank you very much.